awesome hiring. Amazing. And like I feel a little bad because this is one of the coaches I would have looked at for our women's national team.
Yeah.
This guy, man, he just changes cultures.
In the North Carolina game, it showed the most when really early Portland went down a player, and her and Weaver were tasked with the high pressure, picking and choosing their moments to go as an attacker. And I think that showed not only is she athletic, does she have good size, can she run in the league, but she also understands the game. Against Charlotte, in Charlotte, you should go. And then they take on...
Not unless they have grass. Just kidding.
What'd you say?
Not unless they get grass. I'm with Messi. Not watching games on turf anymore.
You are a little more high class than Messi, I guess, apparently, because...
He won't play on it. I won't watch it.
Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch, joined by Scotty Schweitzer. As always, I'm Anna Witte. NWSL, MLS is in full swing. The World Cup is behind us. So let's start with what's happening in the NWSL, because we only have 5 weeks of regular season play left. Within those 5 weeks, Scotty, the top 6 of the table are pretty strong. I'd say actually the top 4 are pretty solidified. Not going to necessarily be in the spots that they're in now, but I do think those top 4 teams will make it into the playoffs. Portland's in first place, ahead by 2 points. Chicago's at the very bottom, will not make the playoffs, hasn't had a good season. But I think there's some spots and some teams in that 7 to 11 range that have the opportunity in these next 5 weeks to make a playoff push. Who is the one team that you have your eye on who can get that last playoff spot potentially in the next 5 weeks?
I totally agree with you. I think the top 4 teams, I think, are going to make it. If I'm Carolina, I'm a little worried because we haven't really been playing our brand of soccer. We haven't been as good as we were earlier. So I'd be a little worried about them. But their points that they have now, I think, are going to keep them enough if they just get a tie here, get a win. They don't have to do that. I think their last couple games, they have a draw and 2 losses, I think, in their last league games, which is a little bit deceiving because the World Cup hit. So it's that one loss is a far way off.
Yeah,
it's
Angel City loss was, wow.
Yeah, so but I don't think they've been playing as good as they were early. But the teams that I think that I want to really keep my eye on, one is I don't think Seattle's playing the best brand of soccer. So I think that's the team that's going to drop out, if anybody. That's just my personal, just watching them play. So getting into that spot, I really, again, still really think Angel City's good. They're the number 1 team of the between, and you're right. I don't really think Chicago's got a chance at all. I think Kansas City's found their groove. I just think they're going to need some help from other teams also. So they're not really a team I'm looking at. Houston is too inconsistent game in and game out for me to think. So the teams I think are Angel City, Racing, Louisville, and Orlando. Orlando with the 3 star Brazilians playing, they look good. If they can get it all together, they kind of start really gelling as a team a little bit better. But I think Angel City is the one team that can really make a push. They seem to understand their roles better. They understand their teams better, the way they play. They're coming off of the ability of they don't have a lot of injuries, and players that were injured are back. And I will say this, that I've been really impressed with Sarah Gordon. Super impressed with the way she's been playing. And she now seems to have understood, this is how you play the center back role. And she's not trying to do things as a center back, outside back anymore. She's her mentality and understanding is solely center back. And I just think they have a really, really good bench. And if they can keep getting the home crowds that they get, it's just so much more fun to play in front of that kind of a fan base. And I think they're going to win their home games, and I think they'll still do good on the road. And they're the team that I wouldn't want to catch. I wouldn't want to catch them in the playoffs. If they make it in, that I don't care what place they're in, that's the team I do not want to come across because they have so many weapons. They have a style of play that's almost playoff-like, where you got to win or go home, and they just come at you and come at you and come at you. And I think their understanding of their coach and how their coach wants them to play, I think they're the most dangerous team of the groups that aren't in the playoffs. And if they get in, they might be the most dangerous team in the playoffs. besides Portland. They're just they're an animal.
They are. Portland certainly is. And Sophia Smith's injury this past week will be really interesting to see. Like, is she going to make a recovery by this weekend, and how serious is that injury? But back to your Angel City point, sitting in 9th place in the standings right now. Looking at their schedule, they play Kansas City this weekend, then they play Chicago, Orlando, Houston, Portland is their last match. I think they could definitely do it. I think with Alyssa Thompson back, with how high Savannah McCaskill is starting to play, getting more opportunities on frame, one of the players who I think has really excelled from Challenge Cup opportunities is Combreros on the flank. She's really upped her level. Becky Tweed, she's the interim head coach, but I think she's making a really good name for herself in the league. I love talking to her. I think she sees the game in such a fun way. Great personality. You can see the girls really enjoy playing for her. I don't necessarily agree with you on this specific topic, but I do think they definitely have an opportunity to continue to raise their ceiling. My team is Racing Louisville. They're sitting in the 8th spot right now, just a team over Angel City. They have gotten a lot of ties this season, only 4 wins. However, they do have DeMello and Borges in the midfield. Jalen House, she was only on the questionable list this past weekend, and so was Nadia Nadim. So I expect them to be back this upcoming weekend against Portland. I think they have some really good, talented pieces. Wang Shuang is in there as well that can find a way to get it done. The only issue that I see Racing Louisville running into is not having a true goal scorer. Can Nadia Nadim come back from this injury this fast and in the next 5 weeks help this team get results? Nadim had 6 goals last season for Racing Louisville, has struggled with her injury, with coming back from ACL. But I think this Racing team, it's a young team. They've got some good firepower. They've got a consistent back line with Urseg and Pickett back there. I think Paige Monahan has kind of come into her own and really fits into the identity of this Racing team. I see Racing putting a potential spot in the playoffs.
I disagree. I don't disagree with all the points you made. I agree with all the points. My thing and why I didn't pick Racing, and if you watched them this weekend, I don't think he knows his players. And that's my big hang up with. They have a lot of different talented players, but they're not really good connecting on the field. And like, he makes subs, and when he makes subs, like, and again, I'm going to give him a little bit of an excuse. Like, a lot of the players got subbed this weekend that were playing good. Like, I didn't think DeMello was bad, but I think they're on minute restrictions because they're coming back from the World Cup.
Right.
Some of them seemed funny to me because they were saying it, and then certain of the games, and I was like, well, she didn't. Like, they subbed out in the Washington game Sanchez, and they're like, well, she's on a minute restriction. I was like, minute restrictions for what?
Didn't play
like,
in the
she
World
didn't
Cup.
play a minute in the World Cup. So, like, is her minute restrictions because she has jet lag? Like, I don't understand. Granted, like, listen, I'm not going to doubt Dawn Scott if she's the one that's in charge of it. So, but I think some of the players we saw this weekend are on minute restrictions. But when I watch Louisville, I just feel like he goes to his bench too early. He goes to his bench too late. He pulls out his best player and puts in he's almost got it planned ahead of time or something, or he doesn't understand how the chemistry works in his own team. But I agree. They have tons of talent floating all over the place in different positions. So that's my only concern with Louisville is I feel they should be putting a better product on the field based on what they have. And over the course of the year, I think they're in too many games that they shouldn't be in, basically. They should have taken care of their business and be done with it. But I can see, like, if I look at it on paper and everything goes to plan, that's a dangerous, dangerous team based on talent. I think he, as the coach, is the biggest weak link because he always seems to be, like, making decisions and they don't come to fruition a lot of times on the field. And that's part of his coaching is when I sub a player in, do they impact the game or do they not impact the game? And do I give them the opportunity and put them into a place where they have a chance to impact the game? Because Louisville does. That's a team I'm thinking in my head, maybe he's just not used to it. It's taken him a year and a half to kind of get used to his team. They made a lot of changes in the offseason, so it's a brand new team this year. That's a team I would be like, let's see what they do next year. Let's really see where they go next year. Maybe if I'm the organization, are we ahead of schedule of what we thought based on what we brought in this year and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish? But that's the only reason that I disagree with you is he hasn't made and pulled the strings good enough for me to expect him to do it later on this year.
Yeah, I completely understand that piece. And I think the biggest thing too is they had so many World Cup players that are still trying to figure out their way in the league, and then they go to the World Cup and now they're back and they're in this playoff push automatically. So, but I still think Borges and DeMello have such a good connection in the midfield that hasn't necessarily come to fruition in the way that they want it to. But they have Portland this weekend, Houston the following weekend, Chicago, Orlando, and San Diego. Half and half talent wise. I think Houston and Chicago can be locks if they go into those games focused and get 3 points out of them. But I don't know. I mean, and with Orlando sitting above them, I think that's a team that certainly will find themselves in a playoff spot. But Racing Louisville, I just think with them not having the success that they've wanted as late, they also have that on their shoulder, and they have that pushing them past the finish line. So we'll see. We've still got plenty of soccer left to be played.
I
But
think they need their up top is they struggle up top.
yeah, well,
Like
they have
their nine is the biggest problem for them.
totally. And Katlana is a player who just got back into the system. She played for South Africa. She had to stay in South Africa for family reasons right after the World Cup. And Kanu is a player who was on paper supposed to be great for this racing side, but she's coming into the NWSL where they expect her to do more defensive work, and she's more just waiting for the ball and wants the magic to happen for them to get her the ball. And that's, I think, one of those miscommunications and something she needs to continue to figure out with minutes. But if they can get her in that rhythm, if Nadia Nadim can get back into her form after being questionable this past weekend, I think Racing can potentially do it. And the thing I've learned about covering this league for a long time, Scotty, is you just never know. Like, there are results in games that I would have never predicted, and teams that make it to the playoffs and to the
I think that's
final.
the beauty of 12 teams.
What'd you say?
The beauty of 12 teams is you can really figure each other out, and you don't know when it's all of a sudden going to just hit. Like,
Right.
I went to the Louisville, Kansas City League Cup game, like one of the very first ones. I was in the stands, so I watched.
Challenge
and I love
Cup
watching
games, yeah.
Challenge Cup. Yeah, sorry, Challenge Cup. And I love watching warm-ups. And I'm telling you what, like watching the game warm-up, I was like, who is this Kanu girl? I mean, she was ripping shots into the upper corners, like just killing volleys, everything, finishing. And then the game played out, and I was like, who is this Kanu girl? Get her off the field. Like, she couldn't find the rhythm of the game, the speed of the flow of the game. She couldn't find the spaces because it's such a transitional league. It's so different than just, and she, and every time I've watched, she really hasn't found the rhythm of the game. Now she goes to the World Cup, and she's a lot better player at the World Cup than she was in the NWSL. And there was a few players that were like that, which was interesting to see and fun to watch. But that's just, when I watch Louisville, that's just, you're right. It could click. And for me, I just don't think it's going to. And I think when they're so good in the midfield, but that's a big spot for most teams. Their midfields are really, really good. So is DeMello and Borges going to be able to withstand all that other midfield pressure and defensive work that they're going to have to do against another team's midfield? Like you just said, they play Portland, and I just like bringing her up every show. Isn't that weird that the number 6 for Portland is the leading assist leader in the league? Like that, I remember when I was playing, now this is a long time ago, but if you were the leading scorer or the leading assist player, you had a good chance of being the MVP of the league, because it's such an important role that you play for your team. And we watched her last week when they got the red card. She was playing a hybrid center back, center mid for Portland,
right,
and they got a result against Carolina and held possession over Carolina, which, I mean, that Coffey's just a special, special player, in my opinion. Like, man, we could have used her at the World Cup.
Definitely could have used her. Yeah, Coffey's sitting in that 6 role, 6 assists this season. Portland's our lock for that number 1 spot. I think once the playoffs hit and teams really get locked into that part of the season, it'll be interesting to see who kind of comes into their own and who's the spotlight team. But yeah, definitely Portland at 1. I have Racing Louisville heading into the playoffs. I agree with you, OL Reign. I don't think they're going to make that final playoff spot. That's the team that I expect to drop. And then I think Washington and Gotham are 2 teams as well that are still trying to figure out certain pieces. Gotham tied Racing Louisville this past weekend. Washington started really strong, but I think teams are starting to figure out their rhythm against them. So we shall see. Next up, Post World Cup, we saw a ton of talent in the Challenge Cup games. We saw teams rise to the occasion, players step into certain roles and fill them well. We've seen players step into roles and maybe not fill them well and aren't right for that specific team. But there was plenty of talent within that time period that is now playing in regular season games. Who was one or two players that have impressed you these past 2 weeks of league games post World Cup?
Well, again, like, and it's not I just something about Sam Coffey, the way she plays. I just think, and I think it's a huge part to like I watched the games the last 2 weekends, and I don't want to say rusty, but a lot of the teams looked rusty. Like they were off a little bit because, and I didn't think that during the World Cup when I was watching League Cup games. I thought these are still really good, high quality games. But a lot of the teams, and I think this is one of the things that helps Portland, is Portland has a lot of leaders that aren't international stars also.
Yeah.
So when the international stars come back, they don't miss a beat of they don't become role players. They don't defer to these international stars because that's not how they played before they were gone. So like Sophia Smith is a terrible injury. And I'm not a doctor, but if I had to pick anything of how serious it would be, I would think an MCL based on the fall, based on how her knee went. Now, again, I'm not a doctor and I can't see
No
through her legs.
speculations. Yeah.
My speculation is based on how I played and my MCL injuries and friends doing ACLs and stuff like that. I would predict, which is still not a good injury. It's a month-long injury. It just doesn't need surgery. Is that something that she did? It might be just the way her knee buckled and bent underneath of itself.
Yeah.
I don't know that her ACL could go that way. I'm not, again. But like there's a team like, okay, Sinclair will go play up top as the 9. Like they have these pieces where I don't think it'll, oh no, like that's the one team that could lose. Like if Washington loses Rodman, oh no, we're in huge trouble. Like this is a huge problem. I don't think Portland has that problem losing her. So one is Coffee, just the way she just continues to lead, continues to do her thing. And like I said earlier, Sarah Gordon is super impressive, and I feel we'll need a look soon with the national team, just for the things that she can do physically, her mentality, her style of play, her leadership roles. And then the last person is, granted, she's just coming back, but she makes San Diego a dangerous team if she can get back to where she was, is Dahlkemper.
Yep.
Holy moly, the girl is special. She's just and now she's matched up and connected to Germa, so she can let Germa do all the athletic things that she can't just yet, and she can be the leader and facilitator of playing the ball out of the back. So San Diego, I told my daughter this week, that's a team, if they get hot, is a team to watch out for because Dahlkemper, that one position can change everything about a team's mentality, expectations, feelings about themselves, and then they have a lot of quality players. The other player that I like for San Diego, is Jaden Shaw. I'm a huge Jaden Shaw fan.
Okay.
Almost to the point where I think she needs to leave the NWSL and play somewhere else just to pick up another style of play of soccer, just to add to her resume. Come back, but I think she needs to play different brands of soccer because she's the total package. She just needs to play these different styles instead of just constantly playing this transition game.
No, I think the connection between Shaw and Doniak has been pretty dangerous for the San Diego side. And before I give my player, singular, just kidding, I completely agree with Dahlkemper. She has impressed so much. And I called that game for San Diego's local station. And I was curious, and we were talking to Coach Stoney before the game. Reel's had a pretty good season. And that was Germa's first game back since the World Cup. So you have Dahlkemper, you have Germa, and you have Reel fighting for that center back role. And Coach Stoney said that she was still trying to figure out the best connection. And what we saw play out was all three of them started. Reel played in an outside back role, but it was really a 3-back. Reel didn't get forward. Westfall really got forward on the other side. I thought that was really smart and a good tactical decision by Coach Stoney because McNabb is still injured for San Diego, and she is by far above and beyond the best outside back. Dahlkemper looks fitter, faster, better, more intelligent than she has ever, really, in my opinion. I know we haven't seen her on the national stage in quite some time, but I think she has such a high ceiling. You can tell she has more confidence in herself. She's not afraid to get stuck into tackles. She went down like 2 or 3 times in this match and just continue to play and bounce back. So I'm glad you brought Dahl Kemper up because she was a really fun player to watch. And that goal she scored, I mean, she hit it off her chest one time with her laces. Those aren't easy to get over. And the fact that she was able to do that in her second game back, technically third if you count Challenge Cup, but her second game of regular season, man, she's got a high ceiling at 30.
Yeah, she if you don't know her story, go look her story up. She is so mentally strong. And I
Mhm.
think like a lot of other players that would have been the end of her career, but like she's been through a lot already. And this to her was just let me just keep flipping the pages and keep going. That's what I mean. She's like, I have that girl in my locker room for all the other girls. Like help them, lead them, parent them basically, teach them
Right.
that it's not always going to be easy. Things aren't going to always go your way. You just got to keep grinding and grinding and grinding and doing your work and believe in yourself. Because I mean, she's gone through her back surgery. She's had another time, a long time out with some injuries and some
Yep.
other things that have taken place in her life. And she's just, man, mentally strong. She's it.
I think Dahl Kemper too is in San Diego. She's originally from California. I do my fair share of stalking of some of these players just to figure out what they're into, what they share on social. She seems really happy with her personal life too, and just what she's been able to do and how she's been able to make San Diego her home. And I think that's a big piece of players as well. You can say the same thing for Alex Morgan and how she's back in San Diego where she's close to family. You hear her talk about it so much. So not only does Dahl Kemper have that support, but she's also in San Diego where she knows a lot of people. She's back kind of in her routine of just being in California, being away in North Carolina for so long. So Dahl Kemper has been really fun to watch. I'm going to go back to Portland for my player to watch. It's Hannah Betfort, my Charleston, South Carolina girl who played her college ball at Wake Forest. Man, she had 3 goals during the World Cup. She had a brace against San Diego. She had a goal in the match against North Carolina. She has really taken the opportunities in a team that has so much depth and technically doesn't really need her because of how much depth they have and has really taken the opportunities to play and run with it. Coach Norris has started her in an attacking role. She has great size. Her touch in the last game against North Carolina to set her up for the finish was beautiful. It was like a back heel ball over top herself. And I think Betford has done a really good job breaking into a team that is hard to break into. You look at Morgan Weaver and what she's been able to do for this Portland side. Granted, Weaver got drafted pretty high in the NWSL out of Washington State, but still, when you're playing with Sophia Smith, you're playing behind Christine Sinclair and Crystal Dunn, it's hard to get opportunities to shine. And I think Hannah Betfort has taken the opportunities, even though it's been kind of few and far between, and kind of ran with it. And the biggest thing for me was in the North Carolina game. It showed the most when really early, Portland went down a player, and her and Weaver were tasked with the high pressure, picking and choosing their moments to go as an attacker. And I think that showed not only is she athletic, does she have good size, can she run in the league, but she also understands the game. And I think she's got potential in this league. If it's not Portland, somebody else is going to want to pick her up.
I agree because in that game, granted, sitting at home, and I don't know her as well as the coach or anyone who's followed her because she's kind of new to the league for us. But for her, then to bring Sinclair out with all that information in her head and all that experience and take her out for the red card and leave her in was a huge sign of what they think about her too.
Totally.
It's not just me as a fan, but what the coaching staff, they're like, we're putting Sinclair out, the captain of the team, the most goals ever international, just all this experience, who could probably figure out how to pressure, when to pressure, cutting lanes, but they took her out and left her in. I think that says a lot. As a player, you got to be like, wow, they really trust me. And I think and then she goes and rewards their trust with that. What a great goal. Granted, a little bit of lacking, nothing to take away from her goal, but a little bit defensively, a lapse by the center backs to be so separate from each other, playing up a man in that game. But
Yeah.
nothing to take, don't take any credit away from her for what she did. The pass through, you're right, in full stride, kind of just continuing the ball's motion with the back of her heel into her stride. And then the finish, outside the foot finish was phenomenal also.
Yeah, the side netting hit too for Bedford. I mean, it's been really fun to watch, and I think that's a lot of testament to what Portland does. Is they take in these players who don't have a ton of experience, but they want to grow them and they want to get them in the club, playing with Sophia Smith, watching film with Morgan Weaver, watching film with these world class players, and then allowing Bedford to do what she does best, not necessarily molding them into who they want her to be, but allowing her to figure out her way within this team. Anywho, I think that she was definitely
Yeah.
a bright spot in this league.
I think that's what makes Portland so good.
Totally.
They don't change players.
Mm-mm.
They allow a player to stay to their style of play, and they help them understand the system that Portland themselves play. And like that's you can't that a lot of coaches can't do that. This is how they want to play, and then they want a certain type of player to play that way. And then they'll say, "Oh, I'm going to take this player because she did great in college, but I got to make you change." But when you change as a player, you usually don't get the best of yourself. You have to be allowed to play through your mentality, through your style of play now, and then how does that fit the system? And Portland, not so much anymore, but Portland reminds me of the New England Patriots, where they took these players like it was a great place to go. If you got drafted by New England, there was a good chance you could become a star. No matter where you were in college or what you were in college, that Belichick was able to take you and help you understand a system and play your style, and then you would flourish in it. Whereas a lot of other coaches, they try to change you as a player, and then you don't flourish, and then they blame it on you. Well, you never let me be me, so how could I ever be good at it? And I think that's what Portland always, all their coaches have kind of done that. Brought players in. Here's what we do. Here's how we do it. How are you going to be able to take your style and implement it into our system? And I think that's what makes Portland so dangerous.
There is, do you listen to the New Heights podcast with the Kelsey brothers? Have you heard it before?
No, no.
Okay. Julian Edelman went on the podcast and he told some hilarious stories about Randy Moss and Bill Belichick. First of all, his impressions of people is top notch, like hysterical. And the way that Randy Moss kind of treated him was so funny. He was like, fill up my tub and get me the orange Gatorade. Like his impressions are so funny. I can't repeat everything he said on this podcast because language bearing, but you have to go watch it. It's hysterical. But I agree with the whole Patriots mentality. They just continue to bring in really talented players with, Drew Bledsoe and then Tom Brady coming in and allowing him to figure out his way, becoming potentially the greatest football player we'll ever see. So yeah, no, I completely agree with the Portland sentiment. NWSL is in full swing. We've got 6 games this weekend, 5 weekends left. So 30 games. Decision day. Portland Thorns are taking on your girls, taking on Angel City. What do you think? Do you think Angel City can get it done on decision day?
I don't know. It'll be like, is it really decision day kind of a thing? You know what I mean?
I
Like,
know.
does it
so.
really matter? Does it matter to Portland? Is Portland resting players? So it'll be that'll be a great. I would love to see that matchup, and I would hope that it matters,
Right.
because I think depending on who can get the flow of the game, the tempo of the game, control the tempo, I think that will be the team that wins the game. Is Ertz going to be back? I know this week she was an excused absence. I hope that
Past 2
it's
weeks.
not an excused absence like, hey, I was just, doing it to play for the World Cup, and now that it's over, I'm done. I hope that's not the case. I really do. I hope she comes back. I do say this, like with Angel City, at least this weekend, they seem really like players were coming off the bench and they didn't seem upset about it either. Like Emsley came off the bench, Endo came off the bench, and I understand Endo probably because of minute restrictions in a sense like that. But like I said, Angel City, like they just kept bringing players off the bench, and you're like, good God, man, they're loaded, and they're kind of finding their rhythm and how they play with each other. And so if it comes down to it, I'll definitely be watching that game, because I think that is two really, really good teams that play very different than each other. One's like real go, and Portland will kind of like pick you apart and take their time and dismantle you, whereas Angel City kind of just wants to run you into the ground. And if they can get the tempo of the game that way, they usually end up on the forefront.
Yeah, no, and this is the first year that NWSL is doing a decision day, which I think is so fun and will definitely draw a lot of eyes and be a good marketing decision for the league. Heading to MLS from NWSL, because MLS has just as much drama this season. Toronto FC has hired a new head coach. It's John Herdman. He is leaving his Canadian men's national team head coaching job for MLS. He was hired by Canada Soccer in 2011 to take over the women's team, where he won 2 Olympic bronze medals with them. He's guided the men's team to their first World Cup this past year since 1986. Where do you see this team going under his leadership? Because right now, Toronto is at the bottom of the Eastern standings. They've only had 3 wins this season and a total of 19 points.
I think this is a phenomenal hiring. Awesome hiring. Amazing. And like I feel a little bad because this is one of the coaches I would have looked at for our women's national team.
Yeah.
I think this guy, man, he just changes cultures. That he did it with the women first in Canada, and then he did it with the men in Canada. And I think this is a great hiring first as a coach, as a mind of soccer, what he's going to do. But I think it's also a great timing hiring. Like this season's a wash for Toronto, but now you're going to give him a third of the season, a little bit, 10 games or whatever he's got to learn the league, learn the style of play, learn the players he has, learn the players in the league, what he wants to bring in. And if you ever listen to any of the Canadians talk about him, man, do they love him, men and women. So, like, now I don't think it's going to happen, but does he somehow get Alphonse Davies to come back to the MLS? Does he bring some of these MLS players that have left the MLS? Does he bring these Canadians back to his team? I just think this is a really, really good hiring from a personal soccer standpoint, but also what he's going to do. He's going to make Toronto a very, very good team. It's not going to take him long, I don't think, and he's going to have them good for the long haul. I really think this guy knows the game, but he knows players, he knows relationships, he knows locker rooms, he understands what it takes to be good. Now, I'm hoping that it translates, which I would think it does, to a full season coaching job. Whereas we've only seen him in these international where a week here, a week there, a week there, which he does a really good job of. I would think more time with his players, more time to converse with them, understand, get his philosophies across. I think this is a great hiring for the MLS, and I think it's a really good hiring for Toronto. And Toronto has, when they're good, an amazing fan base. So I think it's a really good hiring for Toronto. And again, like I said, the MLS is really good hiring.
Yeah, and this continues to show that MLS is a league that wants to compete. They're bringing in these high-level coaches who have gotten the results at the national stage. And to go off your point of we've seen him coaching on the national stage, how will that translate to year-round league games? He said that having access to connect and collaborate with the staff and players daily allows for a different depth of development and connection both on and off the pitch. So he made it a point to say, Herdman made it a point that he wants to be a part of the day in and day out and a challenge that he hasn't necessarily been a part of. And he wants to see how he can continue to grow this Toronto FC side who has potential. They have good players. And how can he do that when he has access to them every single day? At the national level, you get them 5 times a year max. And then you're seeing different players, if you're a good coach, every single time they come into training camp. So getting access to players, having that connection, building relationships, traveling with the team week in and week out. I agree. Herdman still pretty young in his career. He's 48 years old. He's definitely part of this MLS wanting to bring in young people. That seems to kind of be what they're about right now. He fits so much of the mold. He's already in Canada, so why not bring him over to Toronto? And yeah, I am very excited to see where this lands. And he won't take over Toronto FC until October 1st when he's done with everything that he owes Canada Soccer.
What you can hear just from his comments, he's all about culture, and that's a huge
Right.
part of the game. That's a huge part of being on a good team is the culture that's set. And I think that's really important to those Italian boys that are there. And I think that was one of their big problems with Bradley and what's been going on because they've already proven they have the talent, but they have to also be in the right mindset. And when you're that big of a star, a lot of the younger players kind of follow you. And I think that's been part of the problem in Toronto is these younger players are following these Italian boys because they've proven how good they are on the world stage. And it's disconnect from the coaching staff, disconnect from some of the other veteran players. And I think that's been the problem. I think he'll come in and he'll make some rapid changes, but that'll take some time also. And I think he's going to be, like I said, there'll be a team that'll be to watch and then a team that's going to be dangerous in this league.
Yeah, Toronto has 9 games left, and once Herdman takes over, October 4th is their first game against Charlotte. In Charlotte, you should go. And then they take on
Not unless they have grass. Just kidding.
What'd you say?
Not unless they get grass. I'm with Messi. Not watching games on turf anymore.
You are a little more high class than Messi, I guess, apparently, because
That's right. He won't play on it. I won't watch it.
there you go. I understand that. All right. So, no, Scotty's not going to be there, but Toronto and Herdman will be there. So, everyone tune in. And then they take on the Red Bulls in Orlando City. I think the Red Bulls will be a tough matchup, but Orlando City and Charlotte are definitely two matches that I think Herdman can kind of, 3 games is hard to implement your style and really a good test. I think this conversation will have a little bit more depth to it once we get into next season and we see him in preseason, get to talk to him a little bit more. But that's just around the corner, crazy enough. So they'll be very fun to watch Herdman's final 3 games with Toronto FC, rather the last 3 games for Toronto FC. Staying with MLS, FC Cincinnati is red hot. Even though they lost to Messi and PKs in Open Cup, which was a phenomenal match, by the way, like the last minute goals, a 3-3 draw to lead them into overtime and then all the way into PKs. What an amazing game. And I think hopefully that raised the ceiling of soccer in the States and how that was such an accessible game. It was really fun to see Cincinnati's stadium filled out for that one as well. 9 games left in the regular season. FC Cincinnati's out at top with 11 points above the second place team. Why has FC Cincinnati been so successful of late to you?
Well, I really have to they have good players. They have very good players. But I think their coaching staff has done a wonderful. I think Noonan's done a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do. Like when you go down and look at their record, they'll lose a game, then they'll win a game. They'll tie a game, then they'll win a game. Like they don't have a lot of hiccups where they go on these bad losing streaks. They've been doing their business all year long. They also have players that connect really well together. They have Acosta, Vasquez, Acosta. They just like they lose Brennan, and then it doesn't matter. They don't have a problem with that. They're bringing in the Pinto comes in off the bench or he starts. So just the day in and day out operation of how it works and how they believe in each other. And it's not like one player has to do everything for them. They just all believe in the system. They believe in the game plan, and they go out and then they take care of business. And they do, like, I'll give them credit. Nashville and Cincinnati. Miami comes in, they play Messi, and the fans are pro for their team, pro Cincinnati. They're all for him. They're all for Nashville. Messi goes this week, comes in off the bench. You would have thought he was in Miami. Everybody's wearing Messi shirts. Like, what happened, Red Bull? You forget you had a team? Like, all the fans, the New Yorkers, they all forgot they were cheering. They all were there for Messi. It was like it was a home game for them. I felt bad for the Red Bull players. But I think that's going back to that's part of what makes Cincinnati. Vasquez said it in the beginning. He wanted to stay. He didn't want to go to the Mexican Chivas. He wanted to stay. This team took a chance on him. He owed the team. The fans embraced him. He owned the fans. And it almost looks like that when you watch. They don't just play for themselves. They're not just playing for their paychecks. They're playing for their fan base. They're playing for what it's all about. And I think that's part of who Noonan is. And I think that's part of who the players he brought in. And that's the culture he's created. And then when you get into Cincinnati and you're playing in front of that fan base, it's fun. Like I said before, it's fun to play in front of a crowd that's cheering you on. That's like, that knows the game, that wants the best for you because they want the best for themselves in a sense. And I think that's the thing about Cincinnati. One is when they have a bad game, they make tactical adjustments for the next game and they don't have another bad game. And that's a huge part of the MLS where these teams go, they're up in these valleys and up in these hills and down. And Cincinnati has been status quo. If they have a little hiccup, they come right back to where they're supposed to be. And they're a dangerous team. Now, having said that, good God, don't let Messi get in the playoffs.
Right.
Because Miami is a whole nother world now. Oh my! It's just so fun to watch and it can't just be him. What he, Busquets, Alba, and Martino have brought to they have completely changed the culture there. But also Miami, they weren't great without Messi and Busquets the other day, but they were way better than what they had been. And players need to know that it can't be someone else making you bring your very best day in and day out to training. Mm-hmm. If you want to be great, it's up to you. There's no one else. You can't put it on anybody else. Now you add a Messi and a Busquets and all that, and everything starts to really start working. But Miami looked like they didn't want to play. All of a sudden Messi shows up and they want to play every day. It looks like it's amazing how good they're playing and how exciting they are. But on Cincinnati, I think that's a team Noonan's done a great job. He's done a great job showing us that players can come into the league and play in the league and then coach in the league, understands the league, understand his players. He seems like he's got a good relationship and a rapport with his players. And Cincinnati is a team that when I play, that's one of the things I always wanted to be on, was a team that you can't win every game, but you have to be able to, when you lose one, not ever doubt yourself and then get right back to work and then get things going back on the right track. And that's what Cincinnati's done all year long.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm pretty sure that Vasquez was your player to watch heading into MLS, just to give you a little bit of credit.
I know you shot me
I'll
down
clap
last
for
time
you,
saying that
Scotty.
win against Spain. Tell everybody.
And FC Cincinnati takes on Inter Miami in their second to last game of the season, October 7th in Fort Lauderdale. So that'll be a match that will be very interesting to see, like the implications. Inter Miami is just one spot above the last place in the Eastern standings. So do they need every single match to get them to the playoffs? Yes, Inter Miami definitely does.
I think they're going to need,
And
at
some
least
help.
20 points. They're going to need to get some 20 out of 9 games, 27 points available. They need at least 20. They need at
Totally.
least 20.
Yeah, Inter Miami went to New York this past weekend, and Messi's only played in one league game so far this season. I know he's played in like a million MLS teams games, but it was Open Cup and it was Leagues Cup. So now this is Miami, or rather this is Messi in actual MLS. Gets the win over Red Bulls. No, yeah, the Red Bulls. And that goal that he had coming off of the bench, his passes, his ability to just step on the pitch and be electric right away at the age that he's at the time in his career. He doesn't need those minutes to kind of just, he just goes, he flies. I mean, he has like serious magic.
He's messy, so
Sure.
he's been given to us by the gods, I feel.
You know,
but but it's a good thing for young players to watch, because he wasn't just sitting on the bench in a sense. Like when he
yeah,
came in, he had analyzed every defensive shape. So like when he gets out there, it's not like he didn't need any time to get the pace of the game. He had been watching it. Him and Busquets, because Busquets came in at the same time and they just like stepped onto the field. And it's not easy coming off the bench, because the flow of the game has already been created and you weren't a part of creating it. Now you have to get on there and you have to adapt to it. So like, what was it? You come in like the 60th minute or something like that,
something like
55th
that.
minute, like 35 minutes or whatever. But for 55 minutes, he had been watching the game, watching players, because the pass that he makes is a great, not only does he see the space and he sees it, but he plays it outside of his left foot, the right tempo. But he's also been watching and I like this kid, the outside back for the Red Bull. He's the little blonde hair kid, Tonic or so. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he's been watching him play for 55 minutes, and he's one of Red Bull's better players. He's a player that I think should get more looks with the national team. I know
Tolkien.
he's Tolkien. He's got some looks. He's a quality soccer player. But Messi's been reading him for 55 minutes, and then he gets in, he makes his movements, he does his thing, he gets the ball. Listen, the goal was so amazing that nobody is talking about what Jordi Alba did on it. He's
Yeah.
got a behind the back flying scissor kick back to Messi.
I thought that was
An amazing touch, spins the guy, makes that pass, and nobody says anything about the Busquets ball or the Jordi Alba ball, because what Messi does just is so amazing that he takes over takes all their thunder. He kills all their thunder because of how good he is. I mean, players need to understand that what Messi is doing mentally is so amazing. Like we have a saying at Next Level, and we're a technical academy.
Mhm.
Our saying is, to be the best player on the field, you have to be the smartest. You have to be. You don't have to be the biggest. You don't have to be the strongest, and you don't have to be the fastest. You have to be the smartest. If you are the biggest, strongest, fastest, and the smartest, holy cow, look out. But Messi is proving that it's not just his skill, it's his intelligence. He's the most efficient player I've ever seen. He's not walking because he's lazy. He's walking because he can, because he's always getting into his right spots. He's always finding the right spaces. He's just so efficient at doing it. And for us, man, I thought it was going to be amazing for him to come. I didn't think it was going to be this.
No.
This is unbelievable. What this guy is doing, like on the full scale, like not just on the pitch. What he is doing in the marketing, what he is doing for the fans of Miami. Like the one place where a team couldn't make it forever, and they had some great teams in Miami. The Miami Fusion was a great team back in the day. whatchamacallit was there. I'm pretty sure El Pibe, the Valderrama was like, that's a great, unbelievable player too. And like they still couldn't keep a team there. And now Messi's there, and it's like, where does everybody want to go? Miami. We want to see Messi play. We want to watch the MLS. Beckham looks like a genius. I mean, it's
Maybe
just
he
amazing
is.
this guy's doing it. And I don't want to hear, oh, he's doing it because it's MLS. MLS is a hard league to play in. It's
Totally.
not the greatest league, but it's a hard league to play in. It's another transition league. It's big, strong, athletic. And they haven't been like super easy on him. They've been dirty. There's been guys chipping him. There've been guys fouling him. But he's happy. He's smiling. He's sticking up for his players where he never had to do that before at Barcelona or PSG. He's excited about being at practice. He's excited about being in games. And I just think like he found the perfect place. They found the perfect coach. Also, I said that's who I would have picked if I didn't have Neville there. I just think I can't miss a game. The other day I was super upset because the game was on at 7 and I'm not done working till 8. So I had to rush home to get to the game. I can watch it on replay, but I like watching games live just because to me it's more fun to watch them live. But like I can't miss a Messi game. I can't miss a Messi game. I just can't miss it because it's just amazing what he's doing.
Totally. And what I meant more about Messi is I totally agree with like the intelligence side. I just meant like where he's at 36 years old.
Right.
He like able to step on the field and be like physically available for what is happening and being able to step into that game. But to your point with Alba's pass, honestly, in some way, not taking away from Messi's pass because that was perfect. But in my eyes, hot take, I thought that was almost better. Like he kept the game in play. He kept the defender far enough behind both of them with that awkward, amazing, beautiful touch to get it to Messi. I mean, what Messi did is kind of what we've seen Messi do for years, and what makes him so brilliant is those outside of the foot passes. Again, they're hard to do, and I'm not taking away from that, but I think Alba's pass as well was brilliant and insane, and certainly so fun to watch. Messi's been absolutely insane, giving us so much to talk about. I mean, I was in San Diego on Coronado Island, and there were two little boys wearing like full Messi kits, like on the other side of the country. Like I know it's San Diego and a soccer town, but still, I'm like, I did not expect this all the way out here, just showing the impact he's made here in the States in such a short time. Before we go, Scotty, I have a yellow card that I was reading the news this morning, and I just couldn't go with not bringing this one up on the show. I
Yellow
read
penny,
what?
yellow card. Yellow penny, yellow card.
Oh, yellow penny. My bad. Yellow
I
penny.
got one too.
Okay.
I got one too.
Okay, my yellow penny. My yellow penny. Thanks for correcting. This guy was coaching a youth team. He was subbing for a friend and just
I just read this too.
Yeah, he was helping his friend on a youth team. And I guess this parent was talking to his kid and kind of yelling at him in the corner. And the coach went over and wanted the kid to come back into the game. And before he knew it, like the parent had hit him in the head so hard with a metal water bottle that it knocked him unconscious. He had to go to the hospital. I think he's got some orbital wall bruising on his eye. Just like this parent just erupted for no reason. Yellow penny. Why are you touching people? B, leave your kid alone and let the coach. And C, no, just don't put your hands on people, and it's unnecessary. Rather you're coaching Inter Miami and you're in Open Cup, or you're coaching a kids team. Like it is so beyond unnecessary. So yeah, yellow penny to that guy, whoever he is. I hope he goes to jail.
I agree. I read that, man, right probably an hour ago, and I was like, I couldn't, because there wasn't a lot in the story, like, but it sounds like they were like 9-year-old kids.
Yeah.
So like, are you mad that he wasn't subbed in at the right time? You also have to realize that's not your real coach. I'm sure you got an email saying, hey, my buddy's going to fill in. I have to go do something. I think the real coach was doing something for his child.
Right.
But like, and then at the same time, again, that's what you deal with in youth soccer is everybody thinks their kid should be on the national team. It doesn't matter that they're 7 years old. Like, God, get out of their life a little bit and let them enjoy playing with their friends, because that's basically at that age what they're doing.
Right.
Who knows who's good or who isn't good and what team somebody should be on, top team, bottom team. And it doesn't sound like it was even like a super high level soccer game. It was just a weekend game rec challenge kind of a thing. My yellow penny, and I'm going to try to stay super calm on this because there is a lot of stuff, weird stuff going on in soccer. My yellow penny goes to the MLS, which is, I wish I didn't have to give it to the MLS because they did bring us Messi. But in August, the beginning of August, Bruce Arena was put on administrative leave at the New England Revolution. He's not coaching right now. Now, they said because he said derogatory something, but you can't even find information on it. What's her name? Kyle.
Kyle.
She was on a Sirius XM thing, and she made a comment that she heard it was racist, and then she quickly had to. After that show, because she didn't say who told her that, had to come back and say, I apologize, I don't know. But my problem is, why are we not getting any information why Bruce Arena, the most winningest national team coach we've ever had, whole bunch of MLS championships, why are we not getting information why he's on administrative leave in New England? Like, why are they keeping it so quiet? Are they hoping things will happen and they can sneak him back in because he's one of the good old boys? Because that is part of U.S. soccer's problem is they have a bunch of good old boys that they all keep their jobs and they all take care of each other. My thing is, if this guy said something wrong, we as fans deserve to hear about it and know why he said it and what he said. And then what is his punishment going to be? Like, are you just going to give him time served? Like, and no one's going to ever find out what this guy said? Like, to me, it's like their own team doesn't know what happened. Then it came out that he might have said something to, like, there's all these, like, allegations. Like we found out when Dante Van Ziers, what he said, Taxi Fuentes is already gone from Austin. They got rid of him. Like no one's taking, and again, those are two racist things, and we don't know what Arena said. Mm-hmm. But if anyone says anything, we find out. We usually always hear about it. Why is there nothing being said and no one covering what? This is a national team coach that is our, like we all know him. They tell him as he's like one of the greatest coaches in soccer history in the U.S. Is that why we're not hearing anything? People make mistakes, but we should all be able to hear about it and find out about it. Like it taints the legacy of the MLS by hiding something like this. Like just give us the information, let people make their own decisions on it.
Yeah,
like it is what it is. Like I just, to me, is like I don't think we can pick and choose when we want to fight a battle, kind of a thing. If he said something, he said something. Like, I don't understand. Like, did he say something so bad that it's going to hurt the pockets of the MLS? Like, I don't understand that. I just, to me, is like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
No, I mean, I completely agree. Transparency is so important in both NWSL and MLS. It's happened in NWSL before too, and still don't have answers on why certain coaches have been suspended and then never brought back. So, especially a coach like, to your point, Arena, who has so much credential and his resume is filled with so much success. It's what happened, when did it happen, why did it happen? Like you said, let the fans and let the reporters and the journalism do its thing, but be a little bit more transparent. And maybe they will be. Maybe they're holding on for some reason, for something. I don't know. And to your point about the whole Spain situation with Rubiales kissing Ginny Hermoso on the lips, there has been so much that has come out since that has happened that the Spanish Federation has said, and then they have retracted off of their website. So with this podcast on Straight from the Pitch, until we know what is happening and factually what things happen, we're just going to stay off of that one. I would really encourage people listening to this podcast to follow Otta Football. They've done a phenomenal job of reporting on Twitter what is happening, when it's being taken down, why it's been taken down. There's just so many question marks. I think even for me, who has been following the story from the start, I'm so confused. So to the Spain side, obviously with Hermoso and whatever the Spanish team needs to, continue to play for this side. Obviously, these women are amazing at the sport and we want to see them play. But until we know what is going on, we are just going to let that one play out.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, because to me, like as a player and from a player standpoint, my favorite player right now, and I don't even know his name. There's a Spanish male player, and he's not a star, but he's been called in. I mean, he's a star. He's get called into the Spanish national team. He's not a big name on that team, but he said, "I will no longer play until they're out."
Love it.
Like I give that guy credit. Like, listen, for me, I'm not a tape person that writes something on my wrist, but like for me, like whenever I did anything in soccer, I know if I'm going to make a stand, the stand has to be against the higher ups. And I mean high because they're the ones making all the money. So like if the English Federation, the American Federation, and all these, if they know what's going on and it turns out to be as bad as what we think, say we're not playing in any more UEFA games. We're not playing in any more World Cups. We're not going to go. You can't say the Olympics because that's not even controlled by FIFA and UEFA. But to me, is like, don't play because the people, yes, you'll lose some of your salaries. These people that are running the show, they're going to lose millions
Yep.
and millions and millions. So if you want to hurt them, don't step on the field until things are taken care of. Until just to me, like all the fans at the NWS games with the "We're with you" or Contigo
Jenny.
Hermosa, like Jenny, like really, you made a sign? Like, don't go to the game. See how much that hurts. Angel City, when instead of getting 20-something thousand, they got one person at the game.
Yeah, but that would hurt the NWSL unnecessarily, don't you think? Like, I don't think they need to.
I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna make a stand for, like, I just read Alexis Puertas' comments, and she's like, we've been fighting for the little girls.
Yeah,
that's who we're fighting for. We're not fighting for us. Yes, we know we're in a situation where we have the ability to fight. That's what I mean. Like all these federations, like, and again, maybe I just missed it, but I haven't seen Cindy Parlow-Cohn's tweet or comment on it. Like, I mean, I didn't see her. I saw a whole bunch of other people's. I've seen England's. I've seen their federations. To me is like, just sometimes it's real easy to say something and it's real hard to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that would be terrible not to see NWSL games. But who's that hurting? NWSL, MLS? I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the Federation's league. That's their babies. That's who they take care of. So, like, now what? Now what are we going to do? Like, that's just, for me, is like, I get it, and it's nice. I'm sure she feels great for the admiration towards her and everything and all the crap that she had to go through. But, like, to me is like, what is taking so? Get this guy out of here. Get the coach out of here. Like, it should have been done a long time ago. Then they win, and when they win, good God, look at this guy. He thought, now I'm free. Now I can do whatever I want. He grabs his crotch in front of the queen. Like, then he goes down and then he kisses. Like, this guy, good thing something's been said, because he was about to get crazy because he like lost it. He now thought he had all the power in the world to prove, like, look, everything we've been doing, we just won the World Cup. We proved that we were right. Like, you weren't right. You just had unbelievable women playing for you. That's just me. Like, as I watch, I'm like, let somebody do something instead of just writing something on my wrist. Like, I get it. No one wants to lose their salary. I totally understand that. But, like, sometimes you got to fight for the greater good. I stopped playing indoor because of it, because it went to single entity and I thought it was wrong. There's certain things that, like, when you got to take on a fight, Muhammad Ali, he stopped boxing in his prime for something he believed in. And I mean, it worked out for him in the end. So that's just the generation I've been brought up with. Whereas if you want to fight for something, I think you need to fight and go for it. And I think, like, you're right. Like, it would hurt the NWSL. It would hurt the American fan. But someone would be like, holy cow, we're losing tons of money. We need our federation to step in and do something.
Yeah.
We need the English Federation to step in and do something. We need the German Federation to say, listen, Spain, if you don't get this guy out, we're never playing you.
Yeah.
We will never play you again. We'll never come into Spain and play you. Like
I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like, I just think there's more to do than just say, we're with you.
Yeah. No, I totally understand your sentiment in that part. And I just think and to my point, and to the point why we're not delving into the specifics, is there's so many like intangibles, things that are happening, with like the technical staff, and then not really sure now what about the technical staff. Like, there's just so much happening, I think, over in Spain, that until hopefully he's gone, then before the next time we record another podcast, and then we can dive into it. But I just think for right now, it's good that the eyeballs are on the situation. It's unfortunate the eyeballs aren't on the World Cup champions, and like congratulating them and encouraging them on for that. And their leagues are about to start. But at the same time, let's these players need to continue to fight for what they want, which is change within that federation. And I'm hoping it seems like it's going in that direction, but you never know. These federations are crazy.
I would think a little bit that it will go in a better direction than it has in the past, but that's also because things that make money and get eyeballs on them,
Yeah,
things start to change it for the better usually for them. Whereas they used to be like, if
totally. Yeah,
Spain goes out in the first round, we never find any of this stuff out. So like as bad as it is, it's almost good that it happened because now at least like now they can say, we told you. We told you what we were dealing with, and everybody just shoved it aside and pushed it aside. And we still showed up here and played the best brand of soccer with 12 of our starters missing, with 12 stars missing. Like it's not them that did this. It's us that did this. And now we want change, and we want change now. And I think that's like that'll come across. We did it. Our national team, our women did it. They fought for things. They got it. I think it's like don't push it aside, players. You have a ride the wave that you have created. This World Cup has created something super, super special. People understand how good and how talented you are. And businesses have realized how good and talented you are. And now you have a bit more power than you realize.
yeah.
And I think you should make a really strong stand that we want change and we want to be listened to and we want to be in this because we're helping you as much as you're helping us.
Totally, absolutely. I think, like you said, it's a good thing that Spain won this World Cup because of all the eyes that are on this story. And even though it's taken over the soccer world, really men's and women's right now, it's a good thing because change clearly needs to be made within that federation. So with all that said, plenty of NWSL left to be played this weekend. We have a handful of MLS games as well, back to regular scheduled programming. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter. You can watch us on YouTube every week at SFTP Pod. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to us on Spotify, really wherever you get your podcast. And we will see you here next Wednesday.
Have a great week.